Hey guys, we are back with another episode of our weekly news show here on Backstage with Millionaires. I'm Caleb, your host, and today we're going to be talking about the Battle of the Baskets, India's first electric cruiser, Flipkart going fully electric, the CCI's investigation into Google, lots of layoffs and acquisitions in the startup ecosystem, all of the latest funding news, including India's 2 newest unicorns, and more coming up right after this. All right, so first up in the news, it looks like BigBasket thinks that they have a monopoly on the word basket. So there's this very small bootstrap startup called Dailybasket. They're only operational in Coimbatore, and because they use the word basket in their company name as well as in their logo, BigBasket essentially wants them to hand over their business to them. Firstly, they're claiming that Dailybasket has adopted this name and logo so that their name and logo is deceptively and confusingly similar to BigBasket's. And they're also claiming that Dailybasket has copied their website, making only insignificant minor changes. As a result, BigBasket is demanding that Dailybasket stop using the title Dailybasket for their company name, for their logo, and they're also saying that they can't use the word basket anywhere in the future either, which indicates to me that they think that they own the word basket, that they have a monopoly over it, and that no other companies are allowed to use the word basket in their title or in their logo. Despite the fact that there's actually a company called Nature's Basket, which was founded before BigBasket. So if anybody should stop using the word basket in their name, it's probably BigBasket. On top of this, BigBasket is also demanding that Dailybasket stop selling and marketing products under the title Dailybasket. And then on top of all of this, in case they weren't clear with all of those other demands, BigBasket is also asking Dailybasket to cease and desist from doing any acts at all under any brand or title that contains the word basket. They really, really want this word basket for themselves, guys. Oh, and then at the very end, and I love the way that this is worded, they say transfer the deceptively and confusingly similar domain dailybasket.com to our client at no costs. So in other words, forfeit your business, give it to us, and we won't take you to court. Now, it looks like Dailybasket really doesn't have a lot of options at their disposal right now. Like I said, they're bootstrapped, so they probably can't afford a huge team of lawyers the way that BigBasket could, but they also don't want to just give up and comply with BigBasket's demands. And so the founder of Dailybasket has done what I think is probably the only thing that they can do, which is create a website called www.bbisabully.com. As of the 17th of February, which is when BigBasket sent Dailybasket the cease and desist notice, Dailybasket had 15 days to comply, or else they'll be facing legal action from BigBasket. And just so you guys can put a face to the company here, it was actually founded in August of 2020 by Ramesh Kumar Velusamy and Ajit Kumar Tangavo. Ramesh's family has owned a small department store for the last couple of decades, and he had seen a lot of issues in the grocery segment during that time. And so he and Ajit Kumar decided that they were going to solve some of these issues. They launched Dailybasket, and they also launched an end-to-end retail platform to help small and medium-sized businesses to go online. So as always, I would love to hear your thoughts. Do you think that BigBasket should actually be able to own the word basket? And do you think that Dailybasket is in the wrong here? Or do you think that BigBasket should back off? Let me know what your thoughts are in a comment down below. And if you want to support these guys, if you actually feel like they've done nothing wrong and BigBasket shouldn't be coming after them, don't just leave a comment down below this video. Raise your voice, actually speak out on social media, and let BigBasket know that this isn't okay. And do keep in mind too that Tata was actually looking to acquire BigBasket. I don't know if that's still going to happen, but if people shout loudly enough, then it might not. Tata has historically had a great reputation, and a lot of people love that company. So if enough people complain, then Tata might decide that they don't actually want to acquire another company which is known as a bully. But whether you dislike or like what BigBasket is doing, I think one thing that we can all agree to like is this video. It kind of gives us a little boost of motivation when we see the number of likes going up, and it also tells YouTube that you're enjoying our content. Also, if you haven't already subscribed, you should know that we post new videos every single week about Indian startups, entrepreneurs, and the latest news. So make sure to hit subscribe, and if you want to get notified every time we post a video, then you can also hit the bell icon as well. All right, with that out of the way, on with the show. All right, next up in the news, Earth Energy EV has opened up pre-booking for 3 new electric vehicles. There's the Glide Plus, which is a smart electric scooter, the Evolve Z, which is an electric bike, and the Evolve R, which is a smart electric cruiser. Now, there are plenty of electric two-wheelers on the market right now here in India, and typically we wouldn't mention this in our news episode. But the thing that caught our attention was the Evolve R, which is an electric cruiser. And this is the first of its kind in India. At full charge, it has 110 kilometers of range, and with fast charging, it can be charged in 40 minutes. Now, unfortunately for Earth Energy EV owners, this fast charging service is only available at Earth Energy dealerships. And there's only a couple of those dealerships right now scattered across Mumbai and Ahmedabad. But according to Earth Energy EV, in the next quarter, they're trying to set up approximately 50 new dealerships across various tier 2 cities, and presumably these dealerships will include the fast charging service as well. Now, of course, all of these two-wheelers can be charged with normal charging stations as well, and that would take about 2.5 hours. And each of these vehicles also comes with a free home charging station as well. Oh, and I think it's worth mentioning too that except for the cells, all 3 of these vehicles are completely built in India with Indian parts, according to Earth Energy EV. Also, while we're talking about electric vehicle pre-orders, Strom Motors has also opened up pre-orders for the Strom R3. All right, next up in the news, but continuing to talk about electric vehicles, back in August of 2020, Flipkart had announced that by 2030, they were planning on converting their entire logistics fleet to electric vehicles. This fleet includes 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, and 4-wheelers, but when they made this announcement back in August, it wasn't clear what this conversion over to electric would actually look like. Now though, we're starting to get a better idea. It looks like Flipkart is going to be deploying 25,000 electric vehicles by 2030. And they've actually already started deploying electric 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers across a number of different cities like Delhi, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Guwahati, and Pune. For 2-wheelers, Flipkart has partnered with Hero Electric for their NYX series. For 3-wheelers, they've partnered with Mahindra Electric for the Trio Zor and Piaggio for the Ape E-Extra FX. Now, we're not quite sure yet who they're going to be partnering with for their electric 4-wheelers, but what we do know is that they're going to be installing charging infrastructure near their 1,400 supply chain facilities. All right, next up in the news, if you want to get your weekly dose of Backstage with Millionaires in written form, we now have a newsletter. Also, if you want to save data and listen to this episode instead of watching it, we've revamped our podcast. And if your first language is Hindi instead of English, we also have a Hindi channel as well. So make sure to check out the pinned comment down below for links to all of those. All right, next up in the news, back in November of 2020, the Competition Commission of India had ordered a probe against Google Pay, which it seems is being now called GPay, to see if Google was using their dominance to get an unfair advantage over their competitors in the digital payment space. Now, while this probe was ordered back in 2020, the investigation actually only started in January of 2021. But it looks like now the CCI has actually been holding face-to-face interviews with people at Paytm as well as PhonePe to get a better understanding of what is going on. So there's a couple of things that the CCI is trying to figure out here. Firstly, they're trying to figure out if Google is using data from other services that it offers, like for example YouTube and Google Search, to provide GPay with an unfair advantage over the competition. They also want to know if Google is abiding by the zero merchant discount rate policy. And they also want to know if users of platforms like, for example, the Google Play Store are being given multiple options for payment besides GPay. For example, can you pay for an app using Paytm on the Google Play Store? Or can you pay for an app using PhonePe on the Google Play Store? And I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. Do you think that the CCI is going to find Google guilty of the things that they're investigating? And if they are, what is the penalty for these offenses actually going to be? Google is massive, and so I can't imagine that any kind of fine or an order to comply with the rules is going to seem like much more than a slap on the wrist for Google. But let's see. The CCI investigation is still in the early days. All right, next up in the news, the pandemic has not stopped taking its toll, and so we're still seeing startup layoffs happening in 2021. B2B fresh produce supply chain startup Ninjacart has fired more than 200 employees across various cities here in India. And according to some of the employees who were laid off, Ninjacart has been in cost-saving mode now for the last couple of months. Bounce has also laid off more than 200 employees, and this is their second round of layoffs after they laid off 130 employees last year. Back in June of 2020, they had more than 600 employees. So across these two rounds of layoffs, they've more or less halved their workforce. All right, next up in the news, this week there were a bunch of startup acquisitions. Dailyhunt's parent company, Innovation, which recently became a unicorn, has acquired AI-based startup Cogniril Technologies. With this startup, Innovation is going to be setting up what they're calling their AI lab. And they're going to be using the information that Cogniril Technologies is going to acquire for them using AI to better understand user behavior so that they can make better content recommendations on their platforms like Dailyhunt and Josh. Then after Innovation, agri-tech startup DeHaat has acquired agri-tech-focused B2B SaaS platform FarmGuide. FarmGuide uses geotagging and satellite images to gain insights about things like cropping patterns, risk analysis, and soil conditions. And then lastly, we have edtech startup Vedantu, which has acquired doubt-solving platform InstaSolve. This acquisition will give Vedantu access to 1 million new students and will also help them to expand into new Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. All right, moving on to some funding news now. Food tech giant Zomato has raised $250 million in a funding round led by Quora at a valuation of $5.4 billion. Their previous valuation, which was from last year in December, was $3.9 billion. These funds are expected to provide Zomato with a war chest ahead of its IPO, which is supposed to be happening at some point this year. All right, next up in the funding news, India has two new unicorns. Firstly, let's talk about SaaS startup Innovaceer, which raised $105 million in its Series D round from Tiger Global Management at a valuation of $1.3 billion. This is a 3x jump from their valuation last year when they raised $350 million in their Series C round. The startup was founded in 2014, and what they're building is a centralized platform to store patient health records. These health records would be accessible to all stakeholders in the healthcare industry, and while a majority of their customers are in the United States, 85% of their employees are here in India. Then after Innovaceer, we also have construction and real estate B2B marketplace Infra.Market. Infra.Market raised a $100 million Series C round led by Tiger Global, making them a unicorn. They were last valued at $200 million back in December of 2020. Infra.Market enables construction and real estate companies to source quality construction materials with transparent pricing and timely deliveries. The startup was founded in 2016, and in the last 5 years, they've managed to achieve a revenue run rate of $400 million, and they're looking to increase that number to $1 billion by the end of 2021. They're going to be using these fresh funds to expand their technology offerings, search for new markets, and create new private label brands. All right, next up in the funding news, virtual events platform Hubilo has raised $23.5 million in its Series A round, led by Lightspeed Venture Partners and Balderton Capital. The startup was founded in 2015 and enables businesses to host highly customizable online events. Thanks to the pandemic, they were able to achieve their 2-year revenue target in just months, and have since expanded their team from 30 people to 150. With these fresh funds, they'll be rolling out a second version of their product, strengthening their position in untapped markets, and also expanding their team further. All right, that is all the startup news that I have for you guys this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm assuming that you did if you made it this far. And if you did, please do hit the like button. It would really help us out. Also, big thanks to all of our Backstage with Millionaires members, our unicorns, and our decacorns for supporting what we do here at Backstage with Millionaires. All of you guys and the people who have been applauding our recent video about the failure of Just Buy Live enable us to make videos like this one. So thanks. But even if you can't afford to financially support us, thank you so much for watching this episode of Backstage with Millionaires. All right, I will see you guys in the next one.